Yes, but actually no. But actually yes, but actually no. Video game pricing has truly been the hot topic of discussion as of late, meaning like the past 2 years probably. I really started thinking about this topic around the time I saw the rumors come out that GTA 6, that Rockstar would announce GTA 6 costing $100. And my initial reaction was, holy shit, that's a lot of money. So instead of raging and giving in to my initial emotional response, I started thinking about this. Are video games becoming too expensive? And before making this video, I looked around the interwebs and I saw a lot of articles and YouTube videos discussing this particular topic. And while I do agree with the points they're making, I think none of the videos and articles I read and watched truly paint the full picture. So even though this topic has been kinda chewed out already, beating a dead horse and all that, I think I can give my unique take on this, so I was like, this is something I want to talk about. So, video game pricing, huh? It's a really complicated topic of discussion in my opinion. Because in recent times, video games used to be $60, and if we go back to the early 2000s, video games used to be about $45. And now the norm for mostly PS5 games, and Nintendo is slowly adjusting their pricing too. It's becoming $70, or it has been $70. And GTA 6 being rumored to cost around $100 will probably move the industry even further, and $100 might become the norm. It really depends on how well GTA 6 sells, but let's be honest, everybody's gonna be fucking buying that game, whether it's $100 or $70, it doesn't really matter. I think in recent times what we've really been noticing in the video game industry is the focus on money and revenue. Not only are games costing $70 now, but you also have like in-game microtransactions. You have things like game passes. You have paid DLCs, like whenever a new Pokemon game releases, you already know there's gonna be at least 2 DLCs costing $20 to $30 a pop. And that does seem like a very expensive hobby. I'd say video games is a hobby, unless you're making videos like, well, no, I still do this for a hobby, let's be real. I think what is really driving this is how expensive video games have become to make. Again, GTA 6 is a perfect example of this. GTA 6 apparently has cost well over $1 billion to make. And that is insane to think about. And while 1 billion is a super outlier, others go into the 100s of millions as well. And when a game is that expensive to make, you don't want it to just be sunken costs. They don't want to break even or even less. Then why are you making a game? You want revenue for the company to grow and all that. And everything costs money. Every single thing, like graphical design, mechanics, I don't know, I'm not a game developer, man. But every single thing costs money because of how focused on micro details games are nowadays. Whether that's making the game as realistic as possible, as technically in depth as possible, fleshed out mechanics, all that, everything costs money. You need people for that. People want salaries, blah blah blah. Technology itself is becoming really expensive. You might think like hundreds of millions of dollars is a lot for a video game, but when you see how long it takes to make a video game, all the resources and human power, so to speak, that is needed to make a game, it does make sense. And I think that is unnecessary, in my opinion. I think we have reached I don't know if it's a breaking point. I think we've reached a game, or I think we've reached a point where games are overly complicated and focused on like being as true to the real world as possible. And in my opinion, that is very unnecessary. We have these AAA game companies spending fortunes on micro details and like particle effects and making it feel like you're walking through the real world, but now you're like, I don't know, some dude in Assassin's Creed or a GTA character. And they are trying to perfect every single micro detail. And I think that is so fucking unnecessary. Games should be about the fun, about playing the game being a great experience, and I think we've kind of lost in the sauce at this point. I think Balatro is a good example of this. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm probably gonna correct myself in the editing of this video, but I think Balatro was made by one singular dude. He probably had some help too. I'll credit them in the on screen right now or some shit. I don't know, don't care. But that's such a simple game. No super detailed bullshit, no realistic graphics, no massive open world to explore. It's just a funny card game. And it's fucking awesome, addicting and all that. Fun doesn't have to cost $100 for the player, nor $1 billion for a company. And I think you see that a lot with indie games, which is why I mostly like playing indie games. Even though my main channel doesn't really allow me to make videos on it because it won't get as many views, because who's gonna click on it? I think indie games are the solution for now, because they are not that expensively made and they are just as fun, if not more fun, than the vast majority of AAA games. And the reason for this is AAA games, while becoming more expensive to produce and becoming more expensive for the player, they often just aren't as good as indie games. Those AAA games are often beyond shit. Like, where did the money go? Like, talk about a Watch Dogs 3, for example. In my opinion, most Assassin's Creed games. Even like recurring games like Call of Duty. They are released every single year. They apparently cost hundreds of millions to make. And the games are just not great. Like, how are you spending this much money and getting so little out of it? It's beyond crazy to me. And then you have the remakes and remasters too, or well, just I call them ports of older games. They fucking use the the technology of, for example, a Dolphin or a Visual Boy Advance. They stole the technology from established emulators and they copied them one-on-one. And they are like, for example, Nintendo with the Mario Anniversary Collection with like Mario 64. What else was in that package, man? Oh yeah, it was Super Mario Sunshine, Mario 64, and Super Mario Galaxy. They legit changed nothing about the game. They made it like widescreen, copied the technology one-on-one from an emulator, and they were like, here, give me $60. And of course they got backlash for it. That's what makes people even angrier about this video game pricing. Last year I played Obsession and Mosalina from two indie developers, and those games combined cost me $12 or $13. I can't really remember. I think Obsession was $8 and Mosalina was maybe like $4.99. Not entirely sure, but I had more fun playing those games than any AAA game in recent memory. And those games were made by one person. Well, the music was done by someone else, I think. But they don't look realistic. They don't have an incredible amount of detail. They are just pieces of art by people with actual passion for video games. A game doesn't have to cost much to make to be fun. That's the point I'm trying to make here, and I'm really long-winded about this, as per usual. I think that just fuels the outrage. If they were actual fantastic products every single time, I think it would be more widely accepted, I guess. But they are not. The evolution of the video game industry in recent years feels like the soul is sucked out of it. And we get actual dog shit products meant to make money. And even though it costs 100 of millions, the revenue from these games is far greater than the cost. And thus, it kinda feels like there is a price increase for worse products. And like I said, this doesn't mean every single game, but it feels like a lot of AAA games suffer from the same bullshit, and then we get like patches a year later that actually make the game good. Look at Cyberpunk. They were pressured by fucking investors because ho, we need money, ho. And they released a fucking alpha product and they had to like patch it infinitely, and now it's actually a decent ass game, but imagine if they had the time to finish it. Anyway, that's a topic for another video, investor pressure. The worst thing about all of this, and why this will continue, is because people keep buying these products. Even if it's $70, even if the products aren't as good as they were before, people keep buying them. We see record high sales for i.e. Pokemon games and whatnot. So why would the companies not do this? They just are rewarded for producing total poo. And I think that is beyond me. People buy these games, the numbers don't lie, and thus it will continue. Now, I have seen many people talk about this, especially in the current day and age, where they are like, yeah, I guess I won't be buying video games anymore, because $70 in the current economy is way too much. And I understand that. I completely understand that. And if it goes to $100, it will feel like a more elite hobby even more. Like at this point, we're heading into a direction where video games, or well, the AAA games, will become a hobby for the rich. And I don't think that's what video games should be. It should be way more accessible to everybody, and I think that's why we see such a surge in indie games having success, like Balatro, like I think Lethal Company was also by like one dude, and well, I guess the big mode games are like given a big push by Video Game Donkey, but I'd say it's an example of indie devs. But then again, he has massive push because of Donkey being like a massive YouTuber anyway. But yeah, to sum up this section of the video, I guess, I think the outrage is justified to a certain extent. I understand video games becoming way more expensive to produce because of the focus on like details and making it more realistic and blah blah blah. But in my opinion, it isn't necessary. A game doesn't have to be the most fleshed out adventure to be fun, and indie games outperforming and massive AAA games is proof enough of that to me. I can buy about 5 or 6 indie games for one AAA game and have more fun in every single one of them than said AAA game. And charging $70 for something that often feels like a cash grab, it's just you can't shove that down anyone's throat and expect no backlash. And then add on top of that the microtransactions to basically paywall like half of the game and not allow the player to have to get everything out of it unless they pay even more. Then the fucking DLCs that for example Pokemon have Pokemon hidden behind them, and of course there's like an additional adventure which didn't really fit in the main storyline, which is okay, whatever. But selling DLCs, remember when they said the Switch didn't have enough power to get all these Pokemon on it and blah blah blah, and then in the DLC they added a bunch of Pokemon anyway, so that was bullshit from the get-go. And certain games are only available in with subscription passes. Then you have to buy like online games to play. You had to play Monster Hunter Wild. You had to buy PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Online, whatever it's called. I don't buy it. I think that's such bullshit, man. You pay $70 for a game and then you have to pay even more if you want the full experience. I think you can justify that no matter how expensive a game is. I think it's fucking bullshit. But I understand the video game industry. I know this is gonna sound really stupid. I also agree video games are very expensive in the current day and age, and the fucking additional costs probably aren't worth it. But I understand. So I don't want to be like the big corporation defender, the advocate of the devil, so to speak. But let's look at this way. Let's look at this from their perspective. The video game industry has been stagnant for a hot minute. And I don't mean stagnant in producing better games, that's also partially true, I guess. But it's been stagnant when it comes to pricing. No matter where you look, you can always find articles or news outlets talking about inflation. Inflation is insane at the moment, and it has been for a couple of years. Now, what has not been supposedly affected by inflation? It's video game pricing. For the longest time, video games were $60, and it didn't change at all when inflation was like 4% a year or some shit. A game that was $45 in 1998 or some shit would probably be like, I think I read $86 or $87. So that is fucking crazy. That's double the price almost. So if we go by inflation, the video game prices would have increased even more. So $70 isn't even outrageous. It's the video game industry adjusting for inflation. We've seen everything go up, from insurance, house prices, even everything you can buy in a grocery store. Everything has gone up, except video games. So what has essentially been happening with video games is, sure, they were selling a bunch of money, but their buying power, I guess, if we're speaking in like economy terms, their buying power was getting less and less. I mean, just look at your own salary. Your own salary probably hasn't been adjusted for inflation as much as it should have, meaning your salary is worth less than it was 5 years ago. You cannot buy as much bullshit as you could like 5 to 10 years ago. And the same goes for the video game industry. Sure, their total revenue might have gone up, but if you look at it in percentage, then what they could do with that revenue to develop new games has probably gone down. So a change like this makes a lot of sense. Why it does feel so difficult to swallow for the customer is because of our own economical financial situation. Everything feels more expensive. Everything is more expensive because what goes in isn't as much in terms of percentages as what goes out. And thus, a $70 video game and even a $100 video game starts becoming really expensive. People are already having trouble to afford to live, to pay their bills, to get food on the table every single day. The cost of living has just gone up substantially compared to salaries. And if you then try to shove down a $100 video game down someone's throat, obviously they'll be angry as hell. They're like, "Oh, that's such a luxury product. Why would I spend $100 on a luxury product? Blah, blah, blah. You cannot do this." Well, actually, you can do this. Because it makes a lot of sense. Why are video games supposed to be behind on inflation when the rest of everything you purchase is not? The problem lies with the customer. Not necessarily the video game industry. And as rough as that sounds, that's just the truth. I don't even think you can blame any developer or publisher raising video game prices like this. Even with these increases, they're still below inflation. So how does one cope with all of this? I honestly don't know. I feel so conflicted thinking about this, talking about this, because I'm not willing to spend 70 plus whatever else I have to buy to experience a full game on any video game really. It just feels like way too much, especially now that I'm unemployed. I've been unemployed for a while because, well, every fucking company keeps rejecting me. I'm on a 13 reject streak, it's fucking insane. Anyway, even if I had a full-time job, I'm not willing to do that. Why would I spend so much money on video games after paying rent, insurance, food, all that? Like, nobody's willing to do that. But from a video game publisher developer type of view, it makes sense. They need to keep the lights on. So I think it's tough. I think there's no right or wrong here. So to deal with this, I honestly don't know. I think if you're going to buy one of these games, I think spending $100 or $70, whatever, on it is justified if you're going to replay it a number of times, like I have with i.e. Star Wars Battlefront 2 or GTA San Andreas or Counter-Strike. I paid $10 for that at that time. That's crazy. I have 2,500 hours in that game, 26. If it's a series you absolutely adore, even if you only play it once and get like, I don't know, 20-30 hours out of it, but they were really good, 20 to 30 hours, then I'd say the pricing is absolutely worth it. I'd say you still should buy it. Video games are meant to be fun, are meant to give you a great time. And if, for example, Nier would announce the third game after Automata, I'd probably buy it at full price because I know I fucking adore that series. I know it's gonna be fantastic. So then buying it at full price might be worth it. But unlike other products, well, I guess used couches and used cars and shit, but unlike most other products, games often get a huge discount within the year. Often during Steam winter and summer sales, they also get like 50 to 70% off. And otherwise you can wait for another year. You don't have to play something unreleased to have fun playing it. And as soon as like the revenue dies down, they will lower the price a lot to get like those last couple of sales. So you can always do that. You don't have to play something unreleased. Like stop the FOMO, bro. So I'd say do that. Indie games will always be far less expensive than AAA games because otherwise no one will buy their indie games and they will have no success as a game developer. So I think that's a fantastic option. Sure, there are so many games released every single day, but you can always find something, I guess, if you look well enough. I found such a fucking awesome RPG dungeon crawler type of game with such a cool art style. I really want to talk about on the main channel, but it's still in early access. They said it was like 1 year away from going out of early access. That's been 1.5 years at this point, so I don't know what's up with that, but I sometimes find really, really cool games, indie games, and it was like $9. So you can always do that. Like, gaming doesn't have to be for the rich if you play your cards right. And you can always buy a product physically instead of digitally, because then you can trade it again. If you buy it physically, you can play it once or twice maybe. Then when you're done with the game, you can resell it, so you probably break even or like lose a little bit in transaction costs, but it will cost you only a few bucks. You can always do that to play new games. There are a lot of ways to still continue enjoying video games without feeling like you have to sell your kidney for it. And last but not least, you can always, of course, play games on different devices. And that doesn't have to cost you anything, and I will not further elaborate on that. So yeah, that's kinda all I had to say about this. I feel like there are two sides of the coin here, and I really wanted to talk about it. I feel like no video or article really does that. They look at it from one side through a certain perspective, and I think both the customer side of things and the developer publisher side of things are right and wrong at the same time. I really wish we would stop making these overproduced bullshit games that then don't have a whole lot of oomph to it in terms of gameplay and all these fucking DLCs and microtransactions and all that. I really wish we would stop with that, but because video games are so expensive, and like I said, the video game price is still under inflation, they have to make revenue somehow, so I understand, but I fucking hate it. It's why I haven't played AAA games in a hot minute, because I just don't care, man. I'd much rather play a crusty ass PS1 game than spend my money on this and still not get the full experience. So in conclusion, are video games becoming too expensive? I'd say so, but it only feels that way because of our cost of living not matching or increasing salaries, and video games feeling so much like a cash grab that's just not as good as they used to be. I just hope maybe one day we'll go back to making games that function, that are fun, rather than this overproduced, realistic looking bullshit. But I guess that's wishful thinking. Indie games will have to take that responsibility for now, and probably in the coming years as well. I understand the anger, it really sucks, but if you choose your cards right, you can still have a very fun video game journey. And that's what I've been doing over the past couple of years, and I haven't felt like I missed out on anything. So do with that what you will. Video game publishers and developers, shout out to you, I guess. I understand, but the players understandably aren't very happy. How to fix this? I don't know. I don't think there is a fix. Just make a couple million a year and be happy, I guess. Haha. Yeah. Thanks for watching me ramble about video game prices for a bit. Probably wasn't the most incoherent story as per usual, but that's what this channel is for. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.